What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Crew 2. So with the Summit being live on this game, we also have the one in Motorfest, so you guys can actually do both if you would like to. But for the Crew 2, guys, we have the Dust to Dust Summit here with the Scorebreaker boosted for the Rally Raid category. So if you are looking for a great stat and or a great build for your car, that is definitely a set to go after. Now, I would say the biggest highlights of the Summits here is most likely going to be the Ford Addict 2 with the Ford GT Ruby Edition. That thing looks insane. I love it. I cannot wait to drive that car. Do keep in mind, by the way, these vehicles will transfer over to Motorfest in the future, so it is going to be a big win there. But looking at the Summit here, guys, it is going to be an interesting mix. It looks like we are going to have a monster truck event there, and you can also drive the car in the street race, so I would probably say this Summit is going to be an interesting one. But for the next one, though, guys, we have the Player's Choice here, which has the neon green tire. I would probably say that's not going to be like one of the biggest things a lot of players go after, but hey, it is going to be another vanity you can add to your collection. And in silver, we also have the Pagani Zonda F, which is a great car, so at least it may be another car you can indeed add to your collection on Motorfest in the future. But for me, guys, the next Summit is probably the one I'm most excited for, the pole position. Back in the day, I really wasn't playing this game all that often, so I really did not have the right vehicles and or the right setup to do this Summit, and seeing this one finally come back is insane. I think this is actually one of the oldest vehicles in this game, so if you guys do not have this bike, it's definitely worth a shot to go after because this thing is insanely rare, so I really would recommend going after this thing. But overall, guys, the upcoming summits here on the Crew 2 definitely look pretty awesome. We obviously have the 4GT Ruby Edition here, and we also have a crazy old bike coming back, so it's definitely going to be pretty insane. And the best part is we can transfer these vehicles over. And then, of course, moving over to the summit here, guys, I have to admit, this might be one of the least played summits we've probably ever seen because who actually wants to go after a scorebreaker boosted now in the Crew 2 with Motorfest being out? But hey, at least the summit is going to be fun and or something to do. But for the first one here, guys, it is indeed going to be an escape. And the first thing I have to say, guys, you do not have to get 200,000 yards on this. I actually got around 18,000, which, by the way, after a while, I also turned back around in the Koenigsegg Regera, so you don't have to be absolutely insane with this, but this, guys, when you start off, basically go around the actual objective, turn around and follow that dirt road all the way to the main road afterwards, and then basically go as fast as you can. Luckily, I would say this one isn't going to be terrible, but the most annoying part is to probably off-road a hypercar, which, funnily enough, is indeed faster than a rallycross vehicle on a dirt road. Makes sense, doesn't it? But moving over to the next skill is going to be an aerobatics, and I really do feel like these are insanely straightforward. So with the Zivko Edge, guys, it is going to be very simple to do this one, and it is indeed going to be Red Rock. I even missed one as well, and I still got 150,000 points, so I really don't think these are going to be insanely bad to do. But for the Slalom, I of course used a vehicle you probably shouldn't actually use. That's going to be a monster truck, but funnily enough, guys, I'm only 1,000 points away from some of the higher players, so you don't necessarily have to use a vehicle like a rally raid if you don't want to, but if you do have a scorebreaker set on basically any class, they definitely will work for this. But now moving over to the next summit, guys, we have the Rallycross event here that is indeed no restrictions, so you know what that means. I'm most likely going to pick a weird vehicle, but the Ford Fiesta surprisingly is a pretty dang good car, guys. I mean, it does handle great, it has good overall speed, and I would probably say it's one of the better Rallycross vehicles, but do keep in mind there is going to be a lot of turns in this event, so do not be afraid to brake before you actually fly off the cliff. I would know because I did actually do that a few times, but moving over to the next event, though, is going to be a motocross event. And for this, guys, I did run the KTM 450 EXC, which you kind of have to because it's the main bike on this. But do not worry. This is by far probably one of the best motocross bikes in the entire game. Like, this thing is great. I got around 129K, but I also did not do any of the cuts on this race, which I would probably say there is most likely at least one. I just did not see a point of trying to do one of those, but overall, I would say the KTM is a pretty dang good bike overall. Now, moving over to the next event though is going to be a hovercraft race, which I would say a lot of players definitely are not the biggest fan of these. I mean, for one guys, they're not really that fun to use, and that's most likely a reason why they're not in Motorfest, but I would probably say the Proto Speedster is by far the main one you actually want to use, and this is also going to be Gold Rush, which back in the day was probably my favorite, like I guess you could say hovercraft race to grind, so at least it is going to be a good race for that matter. But moving over to the next event, guys, is going to be with the Hunter 51, which is probably one of those rally raid vehicles you most likely do not see and or most likely have never used, but to my surprise, guys, this thing actually handles pretty well. It also has a pretty decent top speed of around like 180, so that immediately makes it faster than many of the other rally raid vehicles, but it's also going to be the event They Are Coming, so it is a bit longer of a race, at least depending on the vehicle you might have used before, but luckily using a maxed out rally raid, guys, it's around 2 minutes or so, and I do feel like overall this event was insanely fun, but that is going to bring us to what I would say is probably the most annoying event in the entire summit. That is going to be Roswell. Now, if you ask why though, this race basically has a terrible Snapchat filter on it, so during the entire time I was racing, I was like, what am I looking at? Like, why is the map so dark? Why does it look like this? It does kind of bring out like the flaws of the coloring, but then again, this is most likely going to be like this on purpose, and this is also going to be a very long event, guys, so I would recommend being slightly careful with it. Do keep in mind, the Land Rover Defender is not a fast rally raid vehicle either. I think it does like 164, so it is definitely going to be one of the slower vehicles, but I do feel like a lot of people are definitely not going to like that event. It's not going to be one of the funnest ones out there, but moving over to the last one here, guys, is going to be an aerobatic race, aka an aerobatic plane mixed into a rally raid event, so out of all of the other events, this is probably one of the easier ones to do, and it's also going to be insanely fast for that matter, so I would probably say you can basically run any aerobatic plane of your choice, but for me though, guys, I basically feel like the episode of SpongeBob going back to old reliable, so I decided to use the Zivko Edge 540 V3 in the aerobatics, and to my surprise, I would actually say this plane is going to be decent, but the biggest tip in this race, guys, is to make sure you go down low enough to actually grab the objective, almost making sure you basically grab it like you would be in a car, and if you are too high up, I did notice it doesn't actually count, but overall, though, guys, I really do think the summit was actually pretty fun, at least besides the rally raid event here, and or the escape is most likely going to be the most annoying part. But if you guys have any questions at all, let me know in the comments below, and as always, don't forget to hit that like button, and subscribe for more insight.
you